All right, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back in the Pursuit of Wealth. We're going to get started here in just about a minute. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds to a minute or so for people to join us here. So welcome, happy Friday. And we're going to be doing a review of the Q4 earnings and full 2021 fiscal earnings for Hexo. And we'll be doing a review of that, and we'll be doing a discussion, and we'll leave a lot of time for questions and answers. I know a lot of people are probably a little disgruntled, for lack of a better word, today, so we'll try and help out as in any way I can, really, because I know a lot of people are down in the dumps today. So wanted to come on and do a live stream and just be there to answer any questions or any concerns that people may have, because I know it hasn't been easy the past couple of days and the last few weeks and months. So just sit tight and we'll get started here very shortly. All right, I see we have some people joining us. So welcome everybody. Happy Friday. It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth. We're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. All right, guys, welcome back on the Pursuit of Wealth. It's Rod with Pow Group. We're going to get things kicked off for today. And I'm currently traveling at the moment. So again, not in my regular setup, but I wanted to come online and just do a live stream for all those that are just a little disgruntled, for lack of a better word, today, that are pretty down in the dumps because the share price is also down in the dumps today. Just want to remind everybody that all of MJ is still struggling at the moment. So both Canadian and US, and I know it's not really the same because Hexo's at all-time lows and 52-week lows, while other names are nowhere near their all-time lows. So it is frustrating. It's frustrating that the S&P 500 is at all-time highs, right? So I feel you. I know what it's like. But before we jump in, guys, just make sure to smash the likes, support the channel any way you can. Subscribe to the channel, be notified on any future videos, but I would appreciate it. It is Friday evening, and we got some pretty amazing people in the MJ industry, and I know some of the most generous people. So if you could just help me out and smash the like and get this video out to as many people as possible. But essentially wanted to come on and just do a discussion of the earnings, my thoughts and views on it. And then I wanted to allocate a lot of time as well just for any questions or any concerns. I know the way that things have been going pretty much the last couple of weeks and months, that a lot of concerns are starting to come to light and are starting to surface. So a lot of people emotions are running high again, right? And just when we think the share price can't go any lower or the sector can't go any lower, it goes even lower than that. So without further ado, we'll jump in. I see we have quite a few people joining us now. So again, welcome. We're going to save some time. We're going to do primarily most of the episode, this video will be of answering questions. So if you have any questions, make sure to jot them down and we'll get right into that here in just a second. But just going to share my screen here with everybody. I want to bring up the earnings. So you've most likely already seen this by now. Hexo reports fourth quarter and fiscal year 2021 financial results, highlighting strong growth. So we know that we've seen a lot of strong organic growth from Hexo and continues to lead the way with innovations and products and just brand awareness. And that's something that is very important in the MJ space. We all know that, and they have one of the best brands, highly recognizable brands in the industry, especially now with the acquisition of Redican. So that's fantastic. So total net sales growth of 71% quarter over quarter and 43% from Q4 2020, making Hexo's best quarter of sales to date. So we're going to talk about why you might have been even wondering today, why is the stock down even though we had record revenue and we came in at record revenue, and that's because the reason is because of some concerns with the financials and the debt that they have owing. They mentioned that on the conference call, so I took part in that conference call here this morning, and I'll fill everybody in with what I can recite from that and what I learned from that. But essentially, there was some concerns around their debt, and that sparked a lot of concern and emotion in people today, right? So that was a big concern. They had a loss of about 67 million, so they beat on revenue. They had record company revenue for the month, but they missed big time on the EPS. So, and that was to do with the $67 million loss. So total Q4 2021 net revenue increased to 38.7 million from 22.6 million in Q3 2021. So we know they had some issues with their hash. They had some issues with some strains that they discontinued, and that ended up resulting in some missed sales and loss of market share. So that's a nice rebound here from that. And I think beverages grew from about 2 million to about 13 million. So that was a nice jump in trust here in Canada. And in terms of the revenue, that's a huge increase right after that, those issues that we ran into, those concerns that we ran into last quarter, a huge increase, but we continued to slide because the share price was not, a lot of people weren't too happy with the loss and the fact that the convertible note that is due, the senior convertible note that is due, it has to do with the share price. So they renegotiated some terms that under the convertible note agreements, there were some other conditions as well, but the main agreement was if the 20-day volume weighted price moving average of the price, the volume weighted moving average, if that price fell below $5, they renegotiated that to $1.50 USD, so US dollars. So now that the share price is under $1.50, they no longer have the option to settle essentially in cash or equity. They have to pay that in cash at the end of the month. But that wouldn't be bad for the lender either if they got equity. So if you're wondering why they renegotiated from $5 to $1.50, it likely has to do with the fact that they don't mind getting HEXO shares at these prices. So of course they'll take shares, they'll lower that to $1.50 because they gladly take shares at that valuation, right? Because they know that HEXO is probably worth $1 billion or $2 billion at the least, right? And the share price there's such a huge disconnect right now in the market. So I do think that that's a potential reason why they renegotiated and they were okay with those terms of $1.50 because they see the growth potential with HEXO. And I do think that that's a big factor. So they also maintained leading market share position relative to peers in the market and completed the acquisition of Zenabis. So just keep in mind that, and I think Zenabis accounted for about $6 or $8 million worth of the net sales on this previous quarter. So that's good to see. But keep in mind, there's absolutely no Redecan numbers on these yet, right? So this was just from Zenabis and HEXO, and this has yet to incorporate those Redecan. So basically everything in between now and March 2022 is just noise, in my opinion. So in March 2022, we're going to have Q2 2022 financials, and that's when we're going to see the fully consolidated numbers of what is Redecan and HEXO and this huge juggernaut that they've managed to build from absolutely nothing, right? They started with multiple years of they were late to the party. So many people had multiple years of head starts, and here we are, HEXO #1 market share. Now all they have to do is just execute, and I think that we could see EBITDA positive into Q1, Q2, into that fully consolidated Redecan. That's going to accelerate that path to profitability. It's going to help with their margins, going to help with their EBITDA as well, in my opinion. And then into the latter part of 2022, into the back half, we could see in Q3, Q4 EPS positive. That's what I'm expecting. And we know that BNN Bloomberg also thinks that Tilray and HEXO are going to become profitable first, and they think that that's achievable in the year 2022. So that lines up well there. And they don't expect any other Canadian LP to do that in 2022. They think it's going to take, Canopy and Kronos and Aurora, all these other companies far longer to do it. So we'll keep an eye on it. But I personally, my money's on HEXO. I think HEXO is going to become profitable first. But we'll keep close tabs on everything. I did join the conference call today. Everybody seemed rather upbeat. And Scott Cooper, the new CEO, so the CEO of Trust, now the CEO of HEXO, you can check out the video that I did on that as well. But essentially, he believes that HEXO is the most exciting and most opportunistic company within the MJ space. And I really do think so as well. So one thing I wanted to highlight before we jump into some Q&A, again, we've been doing quite a few updates on HEXO, so I don't really have that much to update in terms of technicals. We can look at a few things. but we'll be watching the all-time low at $1.38 USD, and then $1.80. We lost that on the Canadian side today, and we managed to close above that though. Today was the monthly candle close as well, and it was in SPY, the S&P 500 closed at a daily record, weekly record, monthly record candle close as well. So we had lots of record monthly candle closes, and again, that's why it's frustrating too with MJ, is we're seeing the broader market, the S&P 500 and all these other stocks like Tesla hitting, new all-time highs, and they're closing at monthly, weekly, and daily record candle closes, right? That's frustrating. It can, I feel everybody, I feel you, I know exactly where you're coming from, and this is just what the market makers want. And I do think that we need to see tech stocks and crypto take a back seat before we're really going to see MJ stocks really take flight. And Hexo did manage to close that monthly candle over that support and that all-time low. So that is a positive sign, but we've yet to test that 138 USD level on the NASDAQ chart. So take a look here. One thing I wanted to highlight. So you can see here the revenue estimates were 33.74 million, and it came in at 38.66, so huge beat and massive rebound from the previous quarter. But the EPS is negative 0.1 here, and this is what TradingView had as well. So I'm not sure why, because I brought it up in the MD&A, the management discussion document here. So you can see here that it shows negative 0.48, and if we just do a quick calculation, you can see that they had a loss of 67,959,000. So we put that in there, 67,959, and we divide that by the amount of shares outstanding at that time was 142 million roughly. So we divide that and we get a loss here of 0.48. So that's exactly what they have there. So I'm not sure why investing.com is saying negative 0.1, but it was actually negative 0.48 if we round that up. But I guess I didn't put in those last three digits as well. So basically 0.48 is what I got. This is what Hexo got. So I'm not sure what investing.com has got here. But one thing I also wanted to mention from here, so there was some in the financial results here. You can see here there was a going concern. So this is what kind of freaked out some analysts. And I think that on the conference call today, the analysts were alluding to this quite a bit. But I think they were more or less using it as a scare tactic, because this wasn't really anything that we didn't already know. But of course, when these analysts are going over the MD&A and all the earnings and whatnot, they see some things that start to raise some red flags. So I think this was maybe overplayed a little bit. I think they made it into a big deal when I don't think it's a huge deal at this point. We know that they had some debt that was going to be coming due, and then they had renegotiated that debt, like I mentioned earlier. So they brought it down from $5 to $1.50. So if the VWAP of the 20-day VWAP is below 150, essentially what happens is they no longer have the ability to pay in cash and equity. It has to be paid in cash. So they do say here that the company has maintained a positive relationship with the holder, and the holder having negotiated an agreement and 2 amendments that were favorable to the company. While there exists a risk that significant cash outflows may be required over the next 12 months under the terms of the senior secured convertible note. The company has been working with the holder to renegotiate the terms of this convertible note. So again, they're still working, they're maintaining a positive relationship. There was some concerns about a potential reverse split. I really don't think that's in the cards. At this point, if we look at SNDL, they're on the NASDAQ and they're well below $1. I think they're at 66 cents, but a lot of people are saying that they might do a reverse split to get out of paying this this cash component here. But again, I really don't think that's going to matter. Plus, it's the volume weighted average price for the last 20 days. So if we just dip below it briefly, that's not a huge concern, but we don't want to float around down there for too long. But again, that's just what they have to pay out at the end of each month. So if it ends up being, $20 million they have to pay in cash at the end of the month, then they may have to go through some other alternatives as well. But they do say, the company says, has sufficient funding for ongoing working capital requirements. However, current funds on hand, I think it was 65 million, combined with operational cash flows, are not sufficient to also support funding potential cash requirements under the senior note. investments required to continue to develop cultivation and distribution infrastructure and the future growth plans of the company. Management is exploring several options to secure the necessary financing, which could include the issuance of new public or private equity or debt instruments, which would mean dilution, or supplemented with operating cash inflows from operations. Nevertheless, there is a risk that certain sources of additional future funding will not be available to the company or will be available on terms which are acceptable to management. In the meantime, management continues to monitor and manage its cash flow in relation to its strategic growth and objectives and working capital requirements. So they said it in the conference call, they're taking it very seriously, and it's something that they're working to correct, and they have a plan to correct it, and they weren't able to release any further details at that time. But that's pretty much all I wanted to highlight from the financial results. I'll just skim this really quickly, see if there was anything else that I wanted to mention. I think their assets were at 1.3 mil and liabilities were at about 600 mil. 1.3 billion and 600 million, I think their assets were at. But we'll move on from here. We'll move on to some questions and answers. Again, I want to go through this video a little quicker today. But I did want to highlight here that Zacks upgraded Hexo to a buy, and they said that they were expecting better earnings, and myself included, I was expecting better earnings over the next several quarters. I didn't have high hopes for this earnings because I wasn't sure how much of that supply issue from their strains that they discontinued and introduced some new strains into their supply chain. I wasn't sure if that was going to have some lingering effects and some remnants from that. But we managed to rebound quite nicely from last quarter, and Zacks called it. They said that they were looking at a primary uptrend in earnings, and that had to do with Zenabis, the acquisition of Zenabis. We know a lot came from, I think 6 or 8 million came from Zenabis on that quarter. And then we have the prospects for 48 North and also the organic growth that all of those companies are going to have in and in itself. And then we're going to be looking at Redecan fully consolidated numbers in March of 2022 for the Q2 2022 earnings. So we should see a continued upward trend, in my opinion, up until March. And like I said, basically everything that happens between now and March, I think is really just noise. And if we look into the end of the year, if they end up becoming EPS positive, like BNN Bloomberg is forecasting, like SSL and many of the, Trent have been forecasting into the back half of 2022, that lines up well that we could see EPS positive by the end of next year, and thus not requiring any further dilution or, traditional financing. They can take money from their operations, and they won't need to dilute or issue any further shares at that point. So just before we jump into some questions, I want to note here that Congress should pass MJ banking as legalization support builds, says Black Small Business Owners in a report here on October 29th, so today. And we will see if there's any further update on that, but I'd rather full-blown legalization. But we'll take whatever we can get at this point. But just taking a look at here at the Hexo monthly chart. So like I said, 138 USD is the all-time low. And we hit a low of $1.45 USD. So we do have earnings coming up again for Q1 2022, and that's going to be on the end of December. So it's tentative date of December 20th. And then, like I said, Q2 is in March 2022. And we should see that Redecan numbers consolidated on there. And we could be pushing anywhere from $80 to $100 million for that quarter with Redecan on there and factoring in all the organic growth as well. So just wanted to highlight that. We did close the candle, the monthly candle here. I want to note here as well that the monthly candles are getting smaller and smaller, so we're not seeing as big of a range, indicating that we could be running out, selling pressure could be running out here a little bit. We're not seeing that much more follow through to the downside, but we closed near the low here, so we're going to be watching 138 as a potential support test into next week. But you got to wonder with these, with that renegotiating of the terms of $5 to $1.50, if they're able to, get Hexo shares essentially at that share price, then they're going to be accumulating all those shares without really driving it up, without driving the share price up, right? Because it's done, it's not on the secondary market. So it's going to be interesting, and eventually we're going to run out of sellers. And like I said, for for everybody that, I know there's some people today that sold their shares, and believe me, that's what the market makers wanted you to do. But for all of you that sold your shares today or over the last couple of days or weeks, just remember that everybody's situation is different. I'm not telling you to buy, sell, or hold this for entertainment purposes only, but just remember that there's always somebody buying those shares. And whoever this lender is, whoever the holder is of this debt, they must think that HEXO is going to be, because they renegotiated the terms from $5 to $1.50. Like, that's a pretty big drop, right? So they must think that there's some value here, or there's some potential here, right? So, but again, for everybody that's selling, and just from my experience and from what I've gathered, there isn't a whole lot of people on social media or on on YouTube in the retail space, and investors and traders that are interested in HEXO at the moment. A lot of people are jumping ship. So if who's buying those shares, right? If people are selling, there's somebody on the receiving end buying those shares. And I guarantee you, it's probably not the average retail investor. It's probably some large financial institution. And that's pretty much all I got for you at the moment. We'll jump into some questions and answers. So we'll just look here. So I can see we got quite a few flowing in here. Renee, hi there. You think this is a short seller report? What exactly are you referring to? What short seller report? Are you referring to the earnings report? I'll let you clarify that, Renee. Yeah, I saw there was no Redican and 48 North on this. Tell a friend we're not in 2023 yet. Let them know. Let them work a bit. Yeah, okay. I think I understand where you're coming from with that one. Yeah, so no Redican. That's the big one on this one. And we're still seeing record revenue, right? And we know that there was going to be some issues with potential losses because they had to change some strains up and get rid of some strains to make room for new strains. So that caused some issues, obviously, and I still think that there was a little bit of lingering effects, but it'd be really interesting to see what earnings are going to be like again at the end of December, because it's not too far out here. It's not too far in the distance. So we'll see here if they can maintain that momentum into the end of December. Not too far away here at this point, right? Only 2 months away, less than 2 months. But yeah, March 2022 is going to be epic. That could be the redefining moment for HEXO. And if they turn a profit, it's going to be, if they turn EPS positive, first especially, that's going to be huge. But there's really that. It's kind of similar to Tesla. Again, I don't want to compare them. So they're not apples to apples. It's apples to oranges. But same thing happened with Tesla. Everybody loved Tesla. The only thing that they didn't like about it was the financials, right? And the same thing's happening with HEXO. Everybody loves the HEXO. They love the brand. They love the stock. They love everything. They love the products. But people are just so uneasy because of the financials, right? And again, all of this information is coming to light at a 52-week low. When people are already beaten down, it's coming at a 52-week low. And I think it's just scare tactics, in my opinion. And like I said, there's people who are buying those shares from you. So if you're selling, I'm certainly not. I'm buying. I'm in a buying mentality. A selling mentality is gone. If you were looking for when to sell and reload cheaper, or when to sell HEXO and move on to something else to recoup some losses and then come to HEXO, come back later, I think the opportunity for that was come and gone already. What I mean by that is when HEXO was at $5, so it went from $1 to about $11 USD. When it dropped down to $5 and didn't hold that key support level, and we had that inverse head and shoulders that was forming, and it failed to do so, and it came down and lost $5 support. That's what I even said to private members. I blasted it out on every social media platform as well, on all my public pages. And I said, if we lose $5, this could be bad. And here we are. It's been a bloodbath ever since. But again, it all depends what your strategy is and what your initial goal was. But when we lost $5, that was an opportunity for you to get out and then potentially recoup some losses or jump into some tech stocks or whatever. Obviously, MJ, summer lull, there was just no interest, right? So that was the time, I think. And then you could have entered into, let's say you sold HEXO when it lost $5 and then you bought Tesla when it was around $700. Now Tesla's at an all-time high. You could have sold Tesla, again, not financial advice, this is for entertainment purposes only, but you could have sold Tesla today at an all-time high and then bought Hexo at an all-time low. But now if you're looking at Tesla saying, oh, it's at an all-time high and it's probably, people are saying it's going to go to 1,500, I'm going to go sell my Hexo at a 52-week low and buy Tesla at an all-time high because it's going to keep going up to 1,500 from 11. You know, that's a risky play. Or maybe you're not buying Tesla, maybe you're buying something else that it's not at an all-time high. But regardless, just know that if you're not around the computer a lot, and if you don't play pre-market, and realistically, this thing could pop at any time, right? And you know, you might be okay. You might be okay selling it and going off to something else and coming back. But just know that when the move comes, it's probably going to be the whole sector is going to blow up because everything's in the dumps right now. And if you're not sitting around the computer a lot, or you don't have a plan, you might miss it. So hopefully that helps. If you guys need any help with that aspect, if you guys think you need more, if you want me to elaborate more on whether or not you should dump Hexo now and make it the money back and buy it back later, or if you should sell it now and buy it back later, let me know. Hopefully that helps, because I've seen a lot of people go down that road in the last few days and weeks, and it's just, I don't want to tell you what to do or what not to do because I'm not a financial advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. But if I can tell you what I would do, I am not in a selling mentality right now with Hexo or MJ as a whole, right? I have no interest in selling any MJ at these levels. But again, my goal was to invest long term. I started accumulating in the summer of 2020. I started buying Hexo and it was at $1 and $2 and $3, and then it went to $11, and that's when I started scaling out. And then I started to enter back in around $8, $7, $5. Granted, it did fall a lot more than I had expected, but I didn't think Tilray was going to drop from $67 to $10 either. The whole Tilray and Hexo are both down 85% from February. I know it's a little different. Tilray isn't at a 52-week low or an all-time low, so that's a little frustrating. But just remember that usually the best companies have the most risk, right? We want volatility. We want to see these huge moves up and these huge prices down, huge moves down in price, because that means there's volatility. Look at Amazon. Amazon dropped. And again, I'm not comparing their business models. I'm not comparing their industries. I'm saying the great companies come with volatility. You welcome volatility. You want the volatility. You don't want to buy these and hope that they're the same price in 6 months or 6 years, right? You want volatility. You want 10,000% gains, 5,000% gains, 10,000% gains, right? But you can't have 10,000% gains without 80% pullbacks or 90% pullbacks. So Tilray went from $4 to $67 and then dropped 85%, but we're still above $10, right? So we're still over double than where we were when we started the breakout. So you kind of just need to sit back. But again, it doesn't mean Hexo, Tilray, Amazon dropped 95% back in 2001 before it went on to, conquer the world. Tesla almost went bankrupt. I think Elon said they were about a month away. So again, it's not comparing them to Tesla I don't think Hexo is going to be in the S&P 500 anytime soon. What I'm saying is, it's a similar story. The media is saying the similar thing. They're saying, yeah, everything's great. The fundamentals are great. The brand is great. Everything. We love the products. But the financials, though. And then they start to scare people into selling their shares. And then eventually Tesla turned a profit. And then it was like, oh, okay, maybe things aren't as bad as we thought. And then next thing you know, Tesla's up 3,000, 4,000%, right? So again, there's no guarantees in life, but this is starting to sound a lot like that similar story, right? I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of months Hexo turns a profit, and out of nowhere all these analysts are like, "Oh my God, we had no idea that was coming," right? And then we see just the share price rocket from there, right? It'll jump and never look back. And so many people will be scrambling in to buy it because the only real main concern right now is the financials. But it's all about execution at this point. Biden opened the border to cheap Mexican MJ traffic. Oh, I didn't see that. Thanks for sharing that, Tobacco Row. He's messing up my Planet 13 though. Yeah, I visited Planet 13. I'm going to do a video on that one. I think just a review of everything. I did a tour of it as well, so looking forward to getting that out. But absolutely amazing. The place was huge, really expensive, but obviously, you know, people aren't going there on, you know, day to day. They're not going there for their day to day needs. They're going there for the experience mostly, right? The creditor seems to gain a lot from getting the stock to tank under $1.50. If anyone had the motivation to manipulate stock, it would be them. It's all pretty yeah, exactly. That's what I basically said earlier, and what, you know, some of our private members and I were talking about in POW Group. You know, I was talking to multiple people today about that concern. But yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to accumulate Hexo shares at these prices? And if this lender renegotiated the terms from $5 to $1.50, that to me says, okay, well, the lender's okay with that extra added risk, right? Because now they're saying, well, Hexo could default here, or Hexo could go bankrupt. But if they thought Hexo was going to go bankrupt, why would they renegotiate from $5 to $1.50 and add that extra risk? To me, I think it's just a scare tactic. I think it was just a way. They know a lot of retail people are in on those conference calls. They know we're listening in, and when we hear stuff, when an analyst says he's concerned about the outstanding debt, right, then it's a domino effect from there. Then it starts to spurs panic. And I've seen a lot of people actually today, that today was the breaking point. Today was, and you might even be one of those people, today was that, you know, final straw. You were just like, yeah, you know what, throw the hands up. I'm done with Hexo. Or maybe the markets aren't for me, or maybe Hexo isn't the stock for me. Maybe I need a different MJ company. That happens with the same, I felt the exact same feelings with Tesla, right? I felt the exact same feelings with MJ back in 2017 before it ran. And granted, I'll be fully blunt with you. In 2017, I didn't enter quick enough, and then I didn't have a plan, so I ended up chasing, and then ended up buying and selling the top and buying back lower. And I said, okay, well, I'll buy it once it gets higher, and then I'd buy it, and then, you know, it'd drop 10%, and it was just a mess. So if you don't have a plan, that's a big thing for me. But you want to. Today was that breaking point, right? Today you want to have a clear plan, and if you don't have a plan, then you're going to reach that breaking point, because that's emotions, right? And these market makers are relentless. They're ruthless. They don't care about how crappy you feel, right? And I know it's hard because you're logging into your account day in, day out. Like Hexo's been pulling back now for like 140 days, right? 140 days. We've been in a downtrend and just a bloodbath, right? Where we've seen pretty much, 60% of that 85% drop in the last couple of months. So it hasn't been easy, but this is what they do to all the great companies, all the companies that have value. They knock them down so that they can renegotiate these terms of $5 to $1.50, so they can get these crazy amounts of shares at these crazy low prices. Hexo is only valued at, right now, based on the share price today, about under 500 million. It's in the 400 millions, which is absurd. They paid $425 million in cash for Redican alone. And if you're thinking, oh, well, maybe they overpaid then. Well, no, I don't think so, because we know another LP, licensed producer, offered them 1.4 billion, and they turned that down and said, no, we want to go with Hexo instead. Said, no, you can keep your 1.4 billion. We're going to take the 925, and we think Hexo is the better long-term bet, right? So I don't think they overpaid, because somebody was willing to pay way more, right? 1.4 billion. That's a lot more, right, than 925 million. So there's some interesting things going on, and like I said, I think that Hexo they're purposely manipulating it, and the longer that a stock is manipulated and accumulated, the higher the expansion and the faster the expansion. Same thing that happened with Tesla, right? Analysts said, don't buy it. They're not making any money. They can only produce, some cars or some car companies are producing more in a month than they'd produce in 2 years. All this FUD, right? they're not making any money, and then all of a sudden they come out with a surprise earnings and they become positive, and then the analysts they completely change their tune, right? But you know that they had their portfolios set up way before, right? As we know, it takes whales, months to get in and out of positions. They didn't just wake up one day and say, okay, we're bullish, right? It's called talking your book. It's not illegal. It's weird, I know, but that's the world we live in, and there's a lot of things that I don't agree with, but we can only do what we can control, right? All right, so lots of questions going on. This might be a little bit of a longer. The media also seems to have a hit out on the stock with their biased reporting. Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing happened with Tesla. The same thing happened with all the good companies, right? They don't want to talk it up. It's not even mentioned really on any mainstream media. Barely anybody I know even knows who Hexo is and their number one market share, right? Like, how is that, right? Because what they're doing is they're unloading their canopies, they're unloading their Tilrays, they're unloading their Chronoses, in my opinion, and these big financial institutions, and they're loading up on Hexo. If you look at the financial institutional ownership in Hexo, I think there's like 154 institutions that are long, 0 short, right? Who's going to short it at these levels? So the latest update, I think, was from a week or two ago, and no financial institution is short. So it's I can't remember the last time I seen a mainstream media company, besides BNN, Bloomberg, but like put it on their front page, Hexo. When's the last time you've seen any kind of mainstream media, meaningful coverage on the mainstream media for Hexo? So that's a good point. Their high five turtle. Okay, well, take care. Hope you get your customers back soon. Hope you get your customers back soon. Not sure what you mean by that one, tobacco, but move on to the next one here. Waiting for Santa Claus rally. That's time when we see the pop and we keep getting good news of legalization. Yeah, it's generally when we see a reversal, definitely coming out of that summer lull. Santa Claus rally, I think, is definitely possible. We had a monthly bull flag on the S&P 500 that was confirming, and that target is about 500, a little over 500, 510 on SPY. So if we could see, we're currently at 460, then we could see another 40 basis points, right, of upside. So that would line up well. And again, we know that crypto's probably going to top out some point in the next 2 to 3 months. And again, I think that MJ, same thing that happened in 2017, 2018, MJ ran after crypto bubble burst and then entered a bear market, right? Then all these profits left crypto and went into the beaten down MJ sector. But, well, what sector right now offers the most upside potential that's beat down the most? Well, that would be the MJ sector again. And here we are coming into the end of the year into the holidays, and we could see crypto top out just like it did in January of 2018. Just after Christmas or, the holidays. And then we see that money rotate into MJ, right? So, and if crypto is on a tear, the stock market's probably going to continue to go up, and Tesla's probably going to continue to go up. And we've seen that correlation because Tesla made more money off Bitcoin than it did off selling cars. So we've seen this correlation go in the market. It goes from Bitcoin and crypto move up. And then we usually see Tesla move. And now because Tesla's such a huge weighting in the S&P 500, then the S&P 500 goes up. So we've seen that correlation. And it's marked a lot of bottoms and it's marked a lot of tops on when watching that correlation with Bitcoin. So that being said, MJ isn't set up well at all if we see any meaningful pullback in the S&P 500. So there's always potential for more downside in that regard. But on the opposite side, being devil's advocate, we could see, a laggard play, right? We could see where SPY trends up to 500 and then we see a huge short squeeze in MJ and it plays catch up, right? And we see just some rotation going on within that prolonged, that macro uptrend, right? Into the end of the year. And then we could see that Santa Claus rally. I think that stocks and crypto are probably going to run up into the end of the year. And I think that MJ might start to catch up, maybe catch a little bit of a bid. And then it's really going to take off, I think, into 2022 and maybe even a little bit into 2023 as well. But personally, I'm looking for Bitcoin to top out here in the next couple of months, and then hopefully we'll see some of those profits rotate into the beaten down MJ sector. It's very, very similar to the 2017, 2018 scenario. What was Tilray's loss last quarter? Perspective is important. Maybe Hexo is just a real reflection of industry. Yeah, exactly. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but it was definitely big. Hope to see money flowing in from crypto and tech by November end. Yeah, exactly, right? So you just, again, if you're cognizant of that, right? If you know that tech stocks and Tesla's at an all-time high and, crypto's at an all-time high and these meme coins are going crazy, which is a lot of retail investors, right? A lot of these meme coins aren't institutions because the coins don't do anything. It's retail investors FOMOing in and feeling, like they're missing out. So where are all the retail investors? Well, they're in crypto, right? So they're not really focused on MJ. Who do you know in your circle of friends that are saying, how about those MJ stocks, right? No one's talking about MJ, right? So now's the time where you want to be buying. That's why I'm saying the whole investor psychology. Now is when you want to be like, okay, now I want to start, maybe paying less attention to tech stocks and crypto because it's nearing a top and it's at an all-time high. And we've seen, 10x and 20x and 100x on some names in a year and a half. Maybe now I want to start thinking about taking profits and roll them into some other things like maybe MJ that's beaten down, right? So yeah, I think you got the right idea there, Tashi. What did you think of their non-answer on the Fortune 200 partner on the conference call? I thought the reaction was odd and hard to read. Yeah, so I think they're just trying to get away from tarnishing their reputation, so they don't want to give away any guidance, or SSL's gotten in trouble with that in the past, saying that they were going to have $5 billion market cap or whatever it was. They were going to be EPS positive by this date or EBITDA positive by this date. It doesn't usually happen, and in a highly competitive and growth sector like the MJ space, you just never know, right? Like case in point, going from 22 million last quarter to 38 and having a record. How many people expected a record quarter this quarter for Hexo, right? But again, I think manipulation is going on, and that is why the stock was down, is because they're still painting that narrative that, this financial, but okay, that might pose an issue over the next 12 months, yes, but if they, Q3, Q4 is about 12 months away. If they post a profit like BNM Bloomberg is expecting them and Tilray to do, the first companies, Hexo and Tilray, they expect they're going to do it first, then money is no problem, right? And especially if they're bringing in anywhere from 300 to 500 million for the full year. So after Redican, they could be bringing in 400 million next year, maybe even 5 million if we factor in organic growth from all of the combined entities, right? So if we're at $500 million, that won't be long until that's an annual $1 billion run rate, right? So who cares about $20 million this month that we owe to the debt if we're making, $500 million or $1 billion a year, right? 20 million a month, that's really nothing. You factor that over the course of the year, that's 240 million. That's still a lot of money, right? But it's not the end of the world. And eventually, once they pay off their debt, then that'll just be profits that they reinvest into the business, thus not requiring any tapping of the equity markets or traditional financing instruments. But back to your question, it was sort of weird how they handle it. They kind of pretty much just dodged it. I'm not sure why, to be honest. I think that I've been told that production is started, and I've been told that there's a few different companies that it could be, and there might even be multiple companies that they're in talks with. So who knows? Maybe we might find out one day, and then the next day we find another partner. So we just don't know. My guess is Kellogg's. I really think Kellogg's is going to be one of them. Mars is another company. Mandela's, but I think my money is going to be on Kellogg's. But again, at this point, we know that they're going to be starting trials in Quebec, and we should see, they said at some point into the beginning part, that's what SSL said, some part of the beginning part of 2022, we should see it roll into the States. So It's hard to say what's going on with the CPG partner at this point. Personally, I'm not too concerned with the prospects of the company just as it is, right? With now Trust entering into multiple states, what's going to happen when Trust gets more brands and products other than what they have now into multiple states? What's going to happen when they get into even more states? What's going to happen when they legalize? What's going to happen when they can have THC across the border? What's going to happen when the Redecan is available in Quebec? It's not even available in Quebec right now. They mentioned on the call as well that they're now available in Redecan is now in Manitoba, but not in Prince Edward Island yet. In a lot of the Maritimes, it's not in. It's going to, I think, Nova Scotia next, but it's going to Quebec soon, right? So, and I think the Hexo has been growing like crazy in Alberta. Here in Alberta, they were up like 73% or something like that year over year, but they've just been taking stronghold on Alberta. But I'm not too concerned about the Fortune 200 partner. It'll come out when it comes out. I mean, I've been doing all these product review videos. I know there's going to be a day come where I'm going to be buying this Kellogg's bar that says powered by Hexo on it. And I know that I'm probably going to be buying this drink that says powered by Hexo on it. Or I'm going to be buying this food that's for pets that says CBD powered by Hexo or something. And I'll do some reviews, right? Maybe I get my dog on and I get him to review the dog food. But, it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen, and we just need to be patient. And like I said, basically everything that happens between now and March of Q2, when we see the fully consolidated Redecan numbers and we find out what this true juggernaut can do, and then it's going to be really interesting to see Q3 to see, does it decline or does it continue to grow in momentum and organic growth? So that's going to be really telling. I'm not worried about the Fortune 200 partner at all. I know that there's going to be multiple coming down the pipeline. So if it happens, again, we knew that it probably wasn't going to come into it's probably not going to be live until the first half of 2022. So why would they rush? And maybe it's because of their competitors, right? Maybe they don't want their competitors to know that they're partnering with a Fortune 200 company when it's not going to be even ready until the end of the year or into the first half of 2022, right? So if they're just going through production now, maybe that's the reason. Maybe they're waiting for that manufacturing and the distribution to make its way a little bit further along, and then they'll release a press release, and then their competitors will be scrambling, right, trying to duplicate their efforts or whatever they need to do to try to compete, right, and to continue to hold that market share. So yeah, I think that could be it. Hopefully that answers your question. If you see a gold nugget in a river, you're not going to point it out. Yeah. Is Hexo going to dilute? It could happen. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, that's a good point, Gemini. We have to be. I'm just gonna have a drink of water here. We have to be ready for that possibility as well, because Trent has said many times that they would dilute again if it was strategic and they thought it was beneficial to the company and shareholders. They said that they would potentially do it, a couple more times if needed. So they already did it once just recently, which caused the share price to tank and drop below $3. So I think it was 145 million, and then it could happen again. It might happen one more time because, like we said, we know that they have some convertible debt that's coming due, and they've only got about 65 million in cash. So that if they end up owing 20 million a month, that only pushes them, about 3 or 4 months out. But they even said in the MD&A that they have enough cash in reserves and whatnot, and enough coming in from operating expenses that they'll be able to withstand everything that they currently have. But that debt is a concern. So management is looking at other ways to mitigate that, and that could be through more financial instruments, or it could be through dilution, through equity. So that would result in more shares, but not the end of the world, right? We know that it could happen 1 or 2 more times. If they dilute one more time, I wouldn't be completely, surprised. I could see them dilute maybe one more time, tap the equity markets maybe one more time, and then into Q3 2022, if they start to turn a profit, then that might be the last time that they ever have to dilute, right? So a lot can happen between now and then, but I'm sleeping well. I'm not concerned at all. I know a lot of people with huge positions in Hexo, and I mean we got to think about it from a logical point of view, right? Redican, we now have Redican, which we haven't even seen anything on the earnings report yet. So we're kind of a little ahead of ourselves here. Redican's number one in multiple categories. They're the number one in brand loyalty, and they're not even in Quebec yet, and they're not even in all the provinces yet. What's going to happen when they're planning to use that technology in the United States, right? So all this stuff. What's going to happen when trust expands? What's going to happen when the CPG partners start to come in other aspects of industry, right? So we're just so early to the game. I don't think MJ's going anywhere in the next decade or two. To me, I think the biggest opportunity right now in any investment is crypto and MJ. Over the next decade, I think hands down it's going to be MJ and crypto. And that's why they're the most volatile, is because they offer the most returns. But they're the riskiest, and you really need to have a plan or you'll get burned. So great point, Gemini. That's entirely a possibility. And again, I just want to be real with you guys. That could definitely be in the cards, right? But we need to know that, okay, well, it might not be the end of the world if we're due to become EPS positive here in the next 3 or 4 quarters. Can you wait a year? If you can't wait a year, then maybe you have your answer to whatever, if you're mulling it over and whether or not you should hold or sell. Again, I can't legally tell you what to do, but I certainly am not looking to sell anytime soon. This sell-off appeared to be hedge fund automated sell. Anyone who knows the company knows the future is solid. Yeah, so again, it's nobody's disputing the future of Hexo. No one's saying Hexo has bad fundamentals. No one's saying they have bad brands or whatever, right? What they're saying is they dilute more than any other company, which is false. Hexo has diluted the least out of the top 3, and Tilray I think raised about 4 or 5 billion, and Canopy raised over time about $6 billion, and Hexo is only a little over $2 billion. So even if they raised another 100 million, they're still well below what Tilray and Tilray and Canopy have raised to date, right? So it's it's just that financial aspect, and that's why I think it reminds me so much of the Tesla story, because the stock looks amazing, the products are amazing, it's just like everything looks amazing. But there's that one major concern, which is, oh my God, they don't make any money. They're operating at a huge loss, and everybody's going to go bankrupt, and everybody's going to lose all their money. But one day out of nowhere, they magically turn a profit, and then all these, analysts are somehow magically bullish. But as we know, they can't just buy on that news, because they would skyrocket the price. We know that they were talking their book and that they had been established for months and months and months, right? So mainstream media, all that stuff, I don't really pay attention to it. I look at what's going on in the company, what are the prospects and the fundamentals. We haven't even seen Redican numbers yet. It's still very, very early. So if you or go bankrupt, so I was just going to say, we're a long way, in my opinion, away from bankrupt. I think they had a little over $1 billion in assets, only 600 million in liabilities, 65 million in cash. We could tap the equity markets again. They could raise potentially through other lending mediums and instruments. So there's some options there, right? We could see a rebound in stock price. Who knows? So there's some options. We're still a long ways out, in my opinion, before we would ever see bankrupt. I just got in the stream. I'm long on Hexo, but that's all the noise right now. I just got into the stream. I'm long on Hexo, but that's all the noise right now. I'm not sure what you mean. What's all the noise? Like what's going on at the moment? Is that what you mean? Or this is all just noise? Because I think you're right if that's what you think. I think it's just noise. Anything that happens between now and March 2022 is just noise, in my opinion. People are just getting scared of that. Yeah, absolutely. They're using that, right? They did the same thing with Tesla. They do this with all the great companies. They find a narrative or something that's going to make people really concerned, And then, of course, they're not going to say it when it's at an all-time high. They're going to tell you that the stock's amazing, so because they're selling and they need to get retail to buy off their expensive shares. So they're telling, why do you think when Hexo in January was at $11 and in February was at $11? Remember that article that came out and said it was going to be the Coca-Cola of cannabis, and they were saying how it was going to $400 or like $200 a share, right? It's like at the 52-week high. And now that we're at an all-time low and 52-week low, now they're saying their debt is a concern. It's like, okay, well, why wasn't it a concern back in February, right? It's all, they do this with every industry, every great company, every great industry, up-and-coming industry, just like crypto. JP Morgan, they said that any of their employees that bought Bitcoin or crypto in 2018, they would fire them. Meanwhile, JP Morgan was buying the most Bitcoin out of anybody. And JP Dimon, the CEO, was telling people, Jamie Dimon was telling people, the CEO of JP Morgan was telling people that it was going to zero and it was basically, the devil. But they're buying the most of it. And there was just news out not too long ago that JP Morgan actually invested in Ethereum before Ethereum even had its initial coin offering. So they were invested in Ethereum even before it hit the public and became a thing, even before the network was operational. But yet they're telling people in 2018 that they're fired if they work in their company and they buy it, and then they're telling the retail, like, how is that not illegal, right? So if that kind of stuff goes on, nothing, the more you learn in the markets, the more you see this in crypto and any upcoming huge emerging market, they rinse and repeat and they do the same thing over and over again. And one of the classic things is the financial aspect, right? Everything looks great. Companies sound, prospects and products and marketing is phenomenal, but it's just that one component we think they're going to go bankrupt. And then people are like, oh my God, right? So, all right, we're going to wind things down. I think we're coming on the end here. I've yet to see Chrono's product out there in stores or in the media. Yeah, they just came out with the sours, the gummies. I mean, I tried them. They're pretty good, but like, I'm not going to buy them all the time, right? Speaking of which, Hexo, the Alberta Cannabis website's down right now. It's under maintenance, but it has been for over a day. A little weirded out by that. But anyway, I can't buy any of the new Hexo products. I'm going a little crazy here. They're not in the stores yet. So yeah, I mean, I'm not on there dying to order Kronos' products. And again, I'm not trying to be biased. I'm just being real with you guys. That's why I'm interested in Hexo, is because their products got me interested. I seen the quality of the products. I seen the innovative products that they had. I loved the products that they had. I became a customer first, and then I became an investor. It's like TAT. I didn't want to invest in TAT cigarettes because I never tried them, and I'm not a smoker. I want to go down there. Like I did a review. You can check that out as well. Just go to my channel, type in TAT, it should come up. But I wanted to go down there and experience it for myself, right? So I became a customer first, and then I looked into the business, and I said, okay, well, this is world-class products, world-class, Center of Belleville Center of Excellence. They just won the manufacturing award. So for that Center of Excellence. So, I mean, they're carbon neutral. We know that all governments are pushing carbon neutral by 2030. That is the main topic right now, and that's probably going to be the main topic after this whole pandemic ends, is going to be climate change. And they're so ahead of the curve, it's not even funny. They've always been leading the pack, by a country mile, as Trent would say. And, it's just, they have the most potential. They have everything going for them that you could possibly want in a company. That's why I'm invested in them. And I know that finances are going to be an issue, but Canopy doesn't have the best finances either. They got a lot more cash. But again, we know they raised way more money to gain equal amount of even less market share. Hexo, through organic growth and far less, only about $2 billion, was able to gain more market share on a per basis point of view, right? So it's a no-brainer. It's just like I said, they're holding it back intentionally, and they're using that narrative of finances, right, and financial just not being strong. But every time we hear the CFO of the company talk, he seems to think their financial position is pretty strong. So I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing the potential there. Personally, I took a lot of my crypto profits. I took a lot of my profits trading, Tesla and other tech stocks. I took a lot of that profit and I started buying MJ with it. And then I sold a lot of my MJ in February after, some names like Tilray went up 10, 13x. So then I started to scale out, and then I've just been buying back in, right? So I'm okay if it keeps going down, because my plan all along was to dollar cost average in, and I was okay with it, right? And again, I'm rotating profits from other things as well. So again, I've got multiple accounts. I've got a crypto account. I've got a stock account, a regular stock account, and then I've got my MJ portfolio, all in different portfolios. And I try not to buy stuff and buy other things, because that's when you start to getting into a big mess, right? So I'm not really a trader. I will trade when there's opportunity, but for me, running Pow Group and traveling lately and seeing how beaten down the MJ space is, and crypto, I've got my long-term holds. I'm not really trading crypto at the moment. Crypto is just one of those markets where it just shoots up 10% out of nowhere, and if you're not, it's 24 hours, so you could be sleeping and it could go up, right? So I just buy and hold my crypto. I'm planning to sell most, if not all, of my crypto here in the next couple of months, because I think we're going to see a huge run, and then I'm going to be looking to add to those MJ positions, and I'm going to be rotating those profits. And if I'm looking to do that, how many other people are looking to do that, right? So again, I'll probably trade a lot once we start to see Bitcoin top out. So if we see Bitcoin have a blow off top and the stock market has a blow off top, and then it drops 5-10%, I'll be buying that dip hard, because we know there's probably going to be a huge bounce. But then it could just be a dead cat bounce and a potential lower high, and then that's when we get the next reversal, right? So I'll be trading more on the way down, and I'll be looking to take a short position here on SPY. Again, I'm targeting 500 on SPY. But what I want to see is MJ rebound here, play a little bit of a laggard and catch up here into the end of the year. And then I'll be looking to capitalize on these low prices in my MJ account. But I'm also not sitting there fixating on my MJ account, right? I'm not sitting there like, oh my God, every day it's going down more. Because I have my crypto account and I have other money, and I've diversified my assets. So then, and today, Bitcoin and Ethereum are at all-time highs. Tesla, I have some other money to set aside to invest in Tesla or to trade Tesla. Right, so today when I seen MJ stocks were down, and to be fair, all U.S. stocks were down too. Again, granted, Hexo was down the most, right? But again, just the way it is, and we can't control that. But like I said, when I seen that today, it sucked. But I had my crypto account, and then I'm looking at my crypto account. My crypto account's pretty much at an all-time high, right? So you're able to deal with those emotions a little bit, and then you're not compelled to sell and go into something else, because you're like, oh, I'm just losing money every day. What's the point of this? Right? So it all comes down to just experience, really, and having a plan. Ride the wave. You bet, James. They really should have raised cash in February. How we wouldn't be in this position. Yeah. Well, they just announced that raise or whatever there, but a lot of. I was thinking back to the reverse split too, that they did a 4-to-1 instead of an 8-to-1. Now they might be kind of kicking themselves for doing that, but that could also show the confidence as well from management. I really don't think another reverse split is on the way, though. All right, let's take a look here. Just lost my place. I reloaded a lot. Very nice, Renee. For once, I'll admit, S&D was smarter there. S&D. S&D. I'm not sure who you... Once I'll admit, S&D was smarter there. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean, S&D. Not Sebastian St. Louis. $4.69 average price. Very nice. Oh, SNDL. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Well, SNDL's, if you're wondering about a reverse split, SNDL is sitting at 66 cents, and they're on the NASDAQ, and they haven't done a reverse split yet. So if you're wondering if Hexo's going to do one, then SNDL can be our benchmark, unless their share price gets back over $1 and over Hexo's, or Hexo's drops below theirs, which I don't anticipate happening. Like I said, Hexo down about 85% from February highs. Maybe we go down 90%. We test that all-time low at $1.38 USD. and Tilray's down 85%, right? So maybe we're going to that 90% across the sector from February highs, and then we see a short squeeze and a move out of nowhere, right? Something we have to be aware of. More than 1/3 of the product on Cush Counter Store is Hexo related companies, CGC minimal. Yeah, I've seen a huge, I was actually in a Tweed store when I was driving across Canada, and Tweed, like owned by Canopy, right? And they had mostly Hexo products in there. And when I was talking to the guy working, he said, "Oh, my favorite company is Hexo." He's working in a Tweed store, so I found that kind of ironic. And it benefits these companies, right? Some licensed producers are going down the retail space as well, but it benefits them to have Hexo because Hexo isn't in retail, so they're not competing, and they're able to sell them products so that they can make margin on it as well, right? So Hexo is making a margin, plus they're helping Canopy make a margin in their Tweed stores. You think Molson won't invest more if they need to help 2 to 4 years? This will be nuts. I'm holding. You bet, James. So you think Molson won't invest more if they need help in 2 to 4 years? This will be nuts. I'm not sure what you mean. I do think that Molson is committed. I think they committed about $65 million thus far. And there was just a report out not too long ago as well that they're really going down that path of drinks that are better for you, and the seltzers are very indicative of that as well. And Molson Coors had record sales and stuff and whatnot too. So they had a great quarter, and Molson Coors looks great. I think the partnership is fantastic, and I'm not concerned at all. I don't think Molson's going to let it go anywhere. We know that they just had a CEO, or the new CEO from Scott Cooper, who was 12 years in an executive position in Molson, right? So Molson's very committed, in my opinion. I bought 76 shares of Hexo today, holding long. I think I got in a great time. Yeah, you bet. Congrats on your entry. Hexo to the moon. I sold half my AMC position and dumped it into Hexo. I believe in it. We just need legalization and we'll be making money. Yeah, friends. So, and that goes back to my point earlier, right? If you're selling other stuff, if you're selling Hexo now to buy other stuff to get into Hexo later, probably not the best idea in my opinion right now at the current levels. But if you're selling something to buy Hexo now, then that would be a great plan in my opinion. But again, not financial advice. This is entertainment purposes only. Hexo is in California. What do you mean, Fran? Do you live in California, or are you seeing them there? Because I don't think they're supposed to enter California until January or the first half of 2022. Or you mean they're heading to California? Let me know. PwC auditor expressed concerns about the accounting. Yeah, we went through that at the beginning part of the stream, Chris. So you might just want to flip back, but I don't think it's a major concern at this point. Management, kind of brushed it off and said, listen, guys, don't worry about it. We're treating it very seriously. We have a plan, and they're going to handle it essentially. And they didn't seem like when he asked the question, he was more or less like. The tone I got was like, okay, guys, can we get off of that subject? We got it. We know it's an issue. We're working on it. I didn't get the tone like, oh my God, we're scared. We don't know what we're going to do, right? So they all seem very committed and laser focused. And now it's just about executing. They have all the infrastructure. They have all the brands. They have all the market share that they need. Now they just need to put their heads down and execute. And I think that's what has to do with SSL leaving. They no longer need that visionary and that mind to come up, to reshape the business and come up with all these crazy new ideas. What they need is somebody with some more business intelligence and experience to come in there and just buckle down and put his head down and make this company great. It's good right now, but we're a far stretch from great. So, and like Warren Buffett says, all you need is 1 or 2 great companies. So I don't think the accounting concerns are a major concern. I think we're a long ways away from a reverse split or bankruptcy, if that's kind of what you're alluding to. Never play coulda, shoulda, woulda. We have to consider the peeps with 50 million shares. Sure love buying when they get 50 million every dollar it goes up. Yeah, absolutely. You got to have perspective And like I said, everybody that's selling, there's somebody that's buying it, and every time you sell or you buy, somebody's selling it. What's happening with Fortune 200 company, SSL mentioned? They didn't comment on it. It's still, they didn't say it wasn't happening. They didn't say it was happening. They just said that they weren't going to give any guidance on it at this point. But I'm not worried. They did say that it was going to be some point in the first half of 2022. So why would they release it right now and then give all their competitors, months of heads up on, what their strategy and who their partner was going to be? So this kind of leaves their competition guessing. Maybe that's what they're trying to do, or maybe they had a setback in production. But I did hear that production had started. So not a huge deal. Like I said, I'm more concerned about getting to March and seeing Redecan numbers, fully consolidated numbers on Hexo, and then looking into the back half of 2022. If we can turn EPS positive, that's a game changer. It'll be a defining moment for Hexo, especially when Redecan numbers hit it. But if we can turn a positive EPS into the back half, like BNN Bloomberg they did an article. Just go to Google, put in BNN Bloomberg, Hexo Tilray profitable, should come up. And they foresee Tilray and Hexo becoming the first to profit out of all the major Canadian licensed producers. And they expect that to happen sometime in 2022. So again, BNN is expecting Hexo to turn a profit in back half of 2022, and it's only valued at like 400 and some million right now, 500 million, and it's #1 market share. I'm not a financial advisor, but you can probably read between the lines. QA was car crash. The CFO answering a question. Q&A was a car crash on the conference call. Okay. CFO answering a question directed to the chairman was poor. Had the good doctor nodded off. Yeah, certainly looked that way. It could have just been that Trent answered it because it was more pertaining to a financial aspect of things. I hope that Redecan bought Hexo's ticker and will capitalize on pumps. I think and hope that Redecan bought Hexo's ticker and will capitalize on pumps. Yeah, well, I see what you're getting at. Yeah, well, I think they think Hexo has the most opportunity. Again, that speaks volumes when they turned down that $1.4 billion that was offered to them for their company and then went with $925 million with Hexo. So true. Elon hated the short sellers and the FUD reports. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely he did. MSM is a joke, clickbait, mainstream media. If anybody doesn't know what that is, yeah. And I mean, sometimes there's there's good and bad people in everything, right? But mainstream media, most of it is run by big companies, right? We know like Fox and all that stuff, CNBC. They're just pumping whatever narrative they want the masses. It's like the herd mentality, right? They want you. If they're going this way, they're trying to get the media to get you to go this way, right? And they try to lead you off that cliff like a lemming intentionally, right? And they don't have any remorse. And so many people think that, that can't be true. Well, if you learn technical analysis, it's most definitely true, because when stock market was about to confirm a daily downtrend or a weekly downtrend or break some major key level of support, Trump would come out and tweet something like, oh, the China deal is close to being done. And then the stock market would rocket, right? And it's just, it smells manipulation, right? And again, if you can't beat them, join them. If you don't like the manipulation, maybe it isn't for you. Again, not financial advice, entertainment purposes only. But if you don't like the way the game is played, you might be better off not playing the game at all. But if you are going to play the game, you need to learn how the game is played. And the only real way to know how the game is played is to dip your foot in and test the waters. And that's a lot of what I do. And on a daily basis in Power Group is I just help people. And there'll be people that do exactly the opposite. I'll tell them something and I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it that way. I'll do it this way, even though, everybody's going to be like that. But you're going to have your trials and tribulations. You need to find your own way as well. But hopefully, some of the people that are listening, I know we have quite a few people on today that some of this information can be taken just look at it from an unbiased perspective, look at it from a, from a non-emotional standpoint, from a logic and data perspective. And this has happened. If you think you're the first person to lose 60% or 80% on an investment, or you think you're the first person or you're going to be the last person who did that, it's going to happen again. They're going to move on to, eventually the MJ sector will run, and then all these people that are fed up with MJ are buying crypto, and then eventually crypto is going to drop 80%, and they're going to be like, oh my God, everything I touch goes to, goes to shit, for lack of a better word, right? And you just can't help but feel for those people because their FOMO and the emotions are getting the best of them, right? So, and sometimes those people just won't learn until they go through it. But hopefully you guys were able to take some of what I had to say here today and apply that to your situation. Elon and Joe Rogan should buy out Hexo. Naked shorting going on here. It reminds me of Eldorado Gold at bottom of gold cycle, days upon days of selling. Sentiment went up 8x. Yep. I think it's gonna rocket when people least expect it. OGI and Hexo both valuable, and whales know it. Yep, I would agree. Well, we know OGI just got that investment from British American Tobacco, and Hexo and Redecan. Redecan was from Grand Enterprise. The family Grand Enterprises and the Montour family, which are big into tobacco, and we know Molson Coors has a huge stake and partnership with Hexo. So we've got big tobacco and alcohol there. So I've said it for many moons now that I think that big alcohol and tobacco are going to run the industry. As maybe you don't want to hear that. Maybe you don't want that to be the case. As bad as that might sound, it's probably going to be the case because they have the most to lose. If I was a tobacco company or if I was an alcohol company, I'd be looking at this saying, oh God, people are already trying to be more healthier. So we saw a decline in beer and alcohol because of that. But now we have a new kid on the block, and we have to deal with cannabis-infused beverages and all this other stuff. People just taking a break from drinking booze altogether and just consuming cannabis, right? So if I was the CEO of any of those companies in any of those industries, I'd be looking at, getting at least my foot in. I certainly wouldn't want to be sitting on the sidelines because it's easy to get lost. And if you're sitting back watching the competition do it, they could easily come in and squash you, and they're not going to let their empires just dwindle away. They're going to fight for dear life. There's a big cap on alts. Haven't pumped yet. They're going to pump until Christmas and then wrote into MJ stonks. Yep, I agree, Mep. I think we're going to see the biggest altcoin run ever, and potentially into the new year, maybe even into March. We'll see. That would line up well with Hexo's Redecan numbers in March. But again, none of us want the share price to be this low. None of us want the MJ sector to be hurting this bad. My dad even asked me the other day, he's like, how are your MJ stocks doing? They must not be doing too good. I was like, you saw a mainstream media article, didn't you? He's like, yeah, Apple News, main app showing cannabis stocks are, getting destroyed, or why cannabis stocks crashed or something like that, right? So the media, even my dad is saying, oh, those MJ stocks aren't looking too good. It's like, when do you ever monitor MJ stocks, Dad? Oh, well, mainstream media said it was true. It's like, oh, yeah, that's because they're trying to get you to tell me so that I feel pressured from my dad to sell my shares to them. Oh, it's a bad world. Like, people are no damn good. Just kidding. There's lots of good people out there, but they're not playing a very fair game, are they? So the best thing that we can do is beat them at their own game, join them, beat them at it, and then extract that money from what else would have been in their hands, and use it for good, right? Maybe you donate to a charity. Maybe you take your family on a vacation, right? Because the government certainly isn't concerned. Again, not to get political, but they've just been diluting all of the inflation's running rampant. It's at the end of the day, there's only you looking after number one, and we need to just look at things from a level head, and I'm a realist. Just look at things from a real point of view, and it's sickening what some of the stuff that happens within the stock market or any of the financial markets. But again, it's very easy to see because it happens in crypto, and then they jump to the next thing. And that's kind of why I got the idea for Pursuit of Wealth. Was the pursuit of wealth. It's a journey. It's not, it doesn't happen overnight. And it's also about catching trends and realizing and identifying what sectors or what industries are running and what are the next up and coming trends, or what sectors are going to have their next cycle or their bull cycle, or when's the next bear cycle, right? So that was how I had that motivation to start this, was to, help other people not make the same mistakes that I made. Of course, I make mistakes all the time. I'm not perfect, but if I can at least save you, 10 or 20% of the pain that I had to go through, and you don't know until somebody points it out, right? When I say, when I compare it to Tesla, some people are just like, they stop listening, they tune out, and they're like, no, Tesla's a way better company, or it's not even in the same category. It's like, I'm not saying the company or the business model is the same, saying the story was the same. What was mainstream media doing when Tesla was in the dumps before it rocketed 3,000%? They were saying the same thing. They were saying finances were an issue. But of course finances are going to be an issue in a new industry that is untapped. It's never been done before, right? So of course they're going to have challenges along the way, right? And not only that, MJ was illegal for the longest time, so it was hard to get money to even start, right? So it's and there's still a lot of uncertainty with regards to regulation. So there's just so much more friction in the MJ space. But I think MJ is going to be massive, right? Like massive. In 5 to 10 years from now, we're going to be look back and be like, oh my God, it's like buying Amazon back in 2000. What were we thinking? Why didn't we buy more? Trading in the dark market should be looked into. Yeah. I already agree. Many hand off shares to dump price and then share the proceeds, millions to shareholders. Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't even want to know what half the stuff goes on behind closed doors, seeing some of the stuff that I've seen. There's a thing called the internet now, right? So these companies think they're smart getting away with everything, but they just pay a fine. Oh, yeah, okay, we committed fraud, and they pay like, $1 billion, and then, but meanwhile they made 5 billion. So who cares? Oh, you want $1 billion of the 5 billion we just made? Sure, no problem. Here's the slap on the wrist. Thank you. Come again, right? Redican guys join board. They have millions to cover debt, buying 40 millions a share themselves. Yeah, like you got to think. They just sold their business for 925 million. So now they got all this capital, right? The owners of Redican. So they're probably thinking, what a great time to buy shares, right? So for all those retail investors and you got to kind of wonder too, right? Why is this financial thing such a big deal all of a sudden, right after the Redican thing, the merger and acquisition, but right before their earnings? You see the weird timing of all of this? It's almost so that the owners and the financial institutions could just, because as we know, it takes them months to prepare their positions. We're going on a couple months now of pullback. So for all those people that are retail, the little guy or gal, somebody bought those shares today, and that's a good point. It's probably the BMOs of the world. Tammy from BMO was on that conference call today again, and I know because I know her name, and I know her. I did a video on my channel of her once, but I know her name. I know her voice so well that I knew her name. I was like, oh, it's Tammy on the conference call from BMO. And then sure enough, yep, Tammy from BMO, Capital Markets. It's like, well, BMO's out here like every time Hexo, and like they're just asking questions. They're so intrigued by their business. I don't know. The writing's on the wall to me. It's got to be those people, right? Loading up the smart money, as you'd call it. And yeah, that's a good point. All the Redican owners, right? They'd be loading up too. The person with the convertible note has been getting, is able to get this cash or the equity and renegotiated the terms from $5 to $1.50, saying, yeah, sure, we just give us more shares at $2, $3, $4, $1.50. We don't care, right? So Hexo will pump once we break the lows. Yeah, so maybe even we flush 138 USD. I really can't see us going below $1 USD. Yeah, the carbon neutral was a big tell of them planning to around a while. Yeah, so and they did it in a relatively short period of time too. Like some companies are like by 2020, 30. I seen one the other day, it was like 2060. Like, wow. 2060, Hexo did it in like 4 months. But again, they've got all the check boxes, right, of an awesome company and just like sustainable and you know, environmentally friendly and just, you know, all the check boxes and all the great aspects of a business that you could want in a company. Hexo's got it. It's just that financial aspect that that the mainstream media is pumping. Sounds like you have the right market perspective. To me, I'm in the same boat. Yeah, thanks, Justin. I appreciate it. Well, you know, I didn't always have this market perspective, and I had a lot of, you know, people that I can give credit to in the beginning. But a lot of it I did learn on my own. A lot of it, you know, people told me I was crazy, even more experienced investors and stuff like that. When I said Hexo was valuable in 2020, the summer of 2020, went from like $1 to $11, right? I know all of MJ, but I was bullish on Canadian LPs, and everybody told me I was crazy. But, you know, you got to kind of find your own path as well, and not everything that I do might not be what other people want to do, right? If somebody's a trader and they're looking at my way of doing things, they might be like, "Oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about," right? But it's like, well, I'm financially free basically, and I could care less what anybody thinks about me, right? So as you know, my finances are set. If Hexo goes to zero, I'm fine, right? I never invest any more than I'm willing to lose. I don't think it's going to go to zero, but you know, I don't need that to. I'm not thinking about it. I've got tons of other, you know, investments. I've got tons of other, you know, cash and things like that. So as long as you don't invest any more than you're willing to lose, right? So what are your thoughts on Australis Capital, Terry Booth? Pretty much not interested in that at all. After seeing the way Terry Booth ran a company, and actually I'm in Edmonton and I know a lot of people that know their family, and there's not a whole lot of good things that are said about them. And no, nothing personal, just not interested in Australis or Terry Booth as a leader, to be honest. My average is 523. Can you look into your crystal ball and tell me when I'll ever break even? Yeah, your guess is as good as mine at this point. I think it'll happen a lot quicker than a lot think, but it doesn't mean that we can't see more downside from here. But keep in mind, we went to $1 to $11 USD on hopes of the US legalizing. So what's going to happen when they actually legalize? What's going to happen when Redecan numbers hit the books? What's going to happen when we see a CPG partner? What's going to happen when we enter into Quebec? Redecan enters into Quebec. We know Redecan just came out with a King pack. So now you can get a 70 pack of Reddies, 7 packs of 10 in a King pack. So 70 Reddies total. And it was $150 on the OCS. I think it's going to be cheaper than that in Alberta, maybe around $120 for the WAPA. They're going to have Shishka Berry, which will probably be closer to $100 or $80 for 70 joints. But you can buy Hexo OS joints right now on Alberta MJ website, $26 for 12, and there's 0.6 grams in each one. So you can buy 7.2 grams for $26. That's insane. Like, I used to, whenever I was, you know, before everything was legal, you'd pay $70 or $60, sometimes $70 for 7 grams, and it wouldn't even be any good. It'd be terrible stuff, shaky, and you know, it'd be terrible stuff. And then you'd have to roll it. Now you can buy OS joints, Sativa joints, 7.2 grams for $26, pre-rolled perfectly. Like, it's insane. The market is so early. Oh man, like what's going to happen when edibles are available in Quebec? Like Quebec doesn't even, the companies started in Quebec, and all of their drinks aren't even available for purchase yet in Quebec. Like there's a few that are starting to get there. I think some of the XMGs just went there, but they don't even have 10 milligram options. So most people are buying the XMGs because it's XMG 10 milligrams, X being 10. So when you go into the store and it says XMG and then it's a 5 milligram, you're kind of like, huh, what the hell? And then maybe people are not buying it as much, right? So Canadian government and Health Canada needs to get their stuff together as well, which I think we could start to see some laws and restrictions ease up into the summer of 2022. But not sure if you meant 523 USD or Canadian, but I think that we could see 523, maybe into the end of the year, maybe leading up into March. But maybe it's going to take until after. A lot can happen between now and then, right? There's so many news catalysts. The CPG partner could come out. We could see progress on US legalization. But I think if we see the S&P 500, it closed, we had a record daily close, record weekly close, and record monthly close on the S&P 500. So that generally means we're probably going to go up, and we'll probably see continuation of that monthly bull flag. And if we're heading up to 500 on SPY and the Santa Claus rally into the end of the year, then that could very well lift MJ. And if we see any kind of, progress with regards to legalization, that could, if SPY's going close to 500, it could just short squeeze and play as a laggard. But again, we really don't know. We're just taking it day by day. As long as you're, as long as you have a plan, as long as you're okay with holding until March. Like I said, I can't remember when I said it. I think it was on one of my recent videos. If a person just held and from now until bought and held from now until March, and when we get those Redican numbers, I think you'd probably end up faring out fairly well. But again, this isn't financial advice. So, but I hope we go to 523 just as soon as you do. I want Hexo and the Green Organic Dutchman to team up. That'd be awesome. I agree. Undercover, that'd be awesome. T-God's hurting too. And we know T-God sold their facility to Cannara Biotech. And we know that Hexo lost quite a bit of market share last quarter to Cannara Biotech to the Kraft because it was like number one at the SQDC. So that might not even be a bad idea for them to team up. That would also get them into the organic space a little bit more. Give it a month, Michael. Yeah, you bet. I'm saying we break the 130 lows and a quick reverse. Yep. Agreed. MSOS, US ETF, also closed near the low on the monthly candle as well. So it's not looking good in the MJ space. Not set up at all if the S&P 500 decides to turn over. So oversold, we always reverse when this oversold and break to a new low. Yep. It's generally when we see it. You just run out of sellers, right? This may go sub $1, so get ready for a split. Well, I mentioned I don't think that's going to happen. I understand your concern, Raz, but what I said was just look at SNDL, because SNDL's on the NASDAQ as well, and their share price is below $1. It's at like 66 cents. And I don't see anybody in the SNDL sundial community freaking out saying a reverse split is coming soon. So we'll see. We know that the pandemic also has hindered some of the businesses and stuff like that. So the exchanges have been a little bit more lenient in terms of maintaining compliance. But at this point, if SNDL doesn't get delisted, then we shouldn't have any concern of Hexo getting delisted because Hexo's over double the price, I think. I sold 15K Neo when mainstream media was creating similar FUD. Yeah, absolutely. And you just look back and you're like, those little, and it's like, once you realize what they're doing, because it's very easy to see, is because if kudos to you if you're still sticking around, because most people don't something like that happens once and then they just, markets aren't for me, or maybe this isn't something that I'm good at, or whatever the reasoning that they might come up with. But the more, I went through that, and then your brain, it's like when you touch something that's hot, it's like, right? And your brain tells you maybe you shouldn't do that again. Well, if you see that FUD article on mainstream media and then afterwards it does the opposite, and then you sell and then the thing goes up, or the opposite, you buy and the thing goes down, and it's like the opposite of what mainstream media was saying, you get that, oh, I'm being burnt feeling again in your brain, and it's saying, okay, well, last time they said that, right? So it just comes with experience. Be the remora fish on the right side of the shark, stay away from the mouth. Yeah, that is modern investing, plus surviving the casino goulash of bag holding. Yep. So true. Enjoy your alternative perspective. There is value here. Average 250 Canadian fair market value. I think it is, yeah. I'll add a bit more and average down. Yep, just careful averaging down. Like I said, it can always go lower. The market can always stay irrational longer than you can throw money at it. So as long as you have and if you're buying, or if you've bought anytime soon, like lately, and you're thinking, oh, it's down 10% or 20%, or how low is it going to go? Well, about 99% of the time you buy something, it's probably going to end up going lower than where you bought it at, right? Because we're not, none of us have crystal balls. We can look at technical analysis, but none of us know for sure. It's just probabilities, right? And there's black swan events like what happened in March 2020, right? There's so many things. So, as long as you got a general idea of the market, right? As long as you know when the masses are buying and when the masses are selling. Like that's when I hear somebody in my circle of friends who doesn't invest or talk about stocks ever say something like, oh, Doge, or, how about that Canopy? It's like, okay, well, maybe immediately I'm thinking maybe I should be looking at selling, right? Because this person who has no knowledge of anything in the stock market is interested. That tells me that they're feeling emotions, and that emotion is greed. So if you're buying something when no one's talking about it, that's going to be that, maximum point of financial opportunity. And eventually all the people are going to be talking about it again, and you're going to be sitting there like, I know, I told you guys like 10 months ago when it wasn't cool. Now it's cool. I'm looking to sell, and all you crazy people are trying to buy. So I've seen it. I've been there. I've been that person. So it's simple. It's a very simple approach. Sometimes you buy and you do nothing. That's the hardest thing, to just do nothing, right? Most people are their own worst enemy, and you want to either sell it to buy something else to recoup the money, but the second you buy that other thing, it drops again, and then Hexo or whatever the other company you left to buy that, not only did the new company you buy drop, but then the company that you sold went up, and then you're chasing that one with even less money than you sold because you bought something else and it went down. Of course, you might be able to buy something and then make money and then rotate it back. That might happen as well. But again, I don't think the time in Hexo to do that is right now. Like when we're at 52-week lows, again, if we were at $5 and when Hexo lost $5 after that run to $11, okay, maybe that would have been a good time to maybe buy a Tesla stock and then, average back into Hexo. But Hexo wasn't at a 52-week low then. But now that it's at a 52-week low, I think that plan is not set up well. I think it's a recipe for disaster, personally. What up, Danny? Appreciate you too, man. Thanks. I really, really appreciate the support. I see the timing. They want our shares and they want them cheap. Yep. Well, they're getting people's shares. I see a lot of emotion in the markets today. And they got it. They definitely have it cheap. The market makers won, for sure. And the shorts, of course. I feel like crypto is the only space for the general retail investors can hang play without predatory manipulation. Wall Street is a scam. Yeah, I mean, like I said, JP Morgan, though, they were invested in Ethereum. We just found out not too long ago, Conrad, that they were invested in Ethereum even before Ethereum's network was fully functional, before they even had the initial coin offering. So before retail could buy Ethereum, JP Morgan, one of the biggest financial institutions in the world, was in on that private equity, essentially. And there's who else we don't know, because the Ethereum Foundation doesn't disclose how much or who owns all the Ethereum, right? For all we know, Goldman Sachs and all the, Citigroup and all the big companies, maybe they all own, maybe Satoshi Nakamoto is the US government or a group of governments. That's what I think personally. And they basically have all of the Bitcoin, right? If you look at Satoshi Nakamoto's account, he owns the most Bitcoin, or she, whoever it is, group of he or she's. So yeah, I think that crypto is very, very manipulated as well. Maybe not to the degree that stocks are because there's not as many players in it yet. But I think that crypto is soon going to become I think crypto is going to become the new financial system. And if the current financial system is rigged, then I would expect more of the same for the future financial system. But again, blockchain is supposed to cut down on that, but not really. It's going to give them more control when you think about it, because now they're going to be able to monitor. Let's say everything is through a digital dollar. Let's say you wanted to go buy a car today for 10 grand and you went cash. The government would have no way of knowing that you bought a car for $10,000 unless you went to register it and all that stuff. But then maybe they're not sure how you got the money to buy. But anyway, they would have no idea that you bought that car. But if you had a digital Canadian dollar or a digital US dollar or a digital yuan, whatever, they can set it in that central bank digital currency. They can set it so that any purchases over an X amount of money. So let's say if anybody transacts in the digital dollar, anything over 10,000, it flags it and it sends it to them and it tells them what the purchase was for. So it helps them with, terrorism and fraud and manipulation and all that stuff. But it also gives them all the information about us. They see everything that we're spending everything on. So it's a little scary when you think about it. Where crypto is probably headed. And I know a lot of people, the libertarian people, are thinking, well, that's why we need Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is going to down with the banks. Bitcoin's going to, power to the people again. But as I said, JP Morgan was one of the first investors in Ethereum before the network even went live. So Ethereum and Bitcoin, plus all the big banks, are now offering crypto services, basically only Ethereum and Bitcoin, because they were the only ones who got that the Bill Hinman speech, right? And those were the only ones that had real clarity. But all the big banks offer these crypto services or trading platforms or whatever. They're getting into that space, and we know that they were invested in Ethereum even before the ICO. It's to think that crypto isn't manipulated. I would agree that it's not as manipulated as the stock market, but in terms of manipulation, I think that there's manipulation, and it doesn't matter what type of financial market it is, because it's money, right? If there's any kind of money involved, that means there's greed involved, and there's good and bad, and there's good and bad. There's going to be that polar opposite, right? So for every good person, there's a bad person on the other side, and there's always going to be those bad actors. You just need to hopefully filter them all out, and do what we can control. And as long as we're aware of it, we can get caught up in it and get emotional and get frustrated, maybe even downright angry at the system, right? But as long as you can kind of see it coming and understand and look at it, maybe this might go a certain way, or maybe they're not telling me everything that I think they should be, right? Or maybe they want me to think this way. Again, don't go too much down the rabbit hole. I'm not endorsing conspiracies. I'm just saying, if mainstream media and the masses are saying one thing, maybe there's more to the story, right? And case in point, Tesla. Every analyst under the sun said, don't buy it, it's not making any money. And then out of nowhere in January, they turned a profit, and then the thing just exploded, and it hasn't looked back since. And you can't find one article. Now they're saying it's going to 3,000 and 5,000 and averaging down. You and pretty much everybody else. What are your opinion on the next earnings? You think they're going to have a big loss again? I think it might be a little bit better in terms of their COGS and whatnot. They're going to have even more Zenabis on there. They're going to have likely some 48 North. and won't have any Redican. That actually, I think they said they might have a little bit of Redican numbers on there. If I recall correctly, they said they might have a small tidbit on there, but the big one's going to be in March of 2022, March 2022 Q2, when Redican will be fully consolidated. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see if the momentum continues or if we wane a little bit. But I think the estimates are somewhere around 50 million. So I think that's pretty much what I would expect. I think somewhere around that 45 to 50 million. And then, like I said, into the next quarter, into March, I think we could see anywhere from 80 to 100 million on that quarter. And I think that's really going to turn a lot of heads. What are your thoughts on Nutritional High name changing to High Fusion, focused on edibles out in Colorado and Cali? They just bought out Outco Brands. I'm not too familiar with that one, to be honest. I just got back from Colorado, though. I know that, so they just bought, so that must be a U.S. play. But I know in Colorado, everything has to be manufactured and like, you know, produced within Colorado. Can't come from without, exterior to state lines. So all of the production and manufacturing all has to happen within Colorado. So they must be looking to penetrate into the U.S. But personally, I don't have much information on them. That's not a company that I follow, unfortunately. I'll have to take a look into that one, though. I know Wana Brands was one of the products I sampled. I did a product review there not too long ago. Canopy just bought them, and they had a pretty strong presence in Colorado as well, and they're an edible company as well. So a lot of people are getting into that space. I think Canopy paid like $265 million for Wana Brands. So seems to be pretty much what most people are doing. So just from initial reaction, I don't think it's a bad idea, just based on a lot of the activity going on in the space. Hi Rod, any chance Hexo is going under $1 US? It's possible. It's not set up well if the S&P 500 and the broader market pulls back any significant amount, right? It's not looking good at all. But like I said, 138 USD is going to be the level to watch. If we lose 138, then we're just looking at pretty much psychological numbers from there. So we'll look at 125, $1. I don't think we're going to lose $1. If we do, it's probably going to be because of we have the earnings out of the way now. Next earnings, I can't see that really being, seeing there being too many gotchas in there. But ideally, what I would like to see somewhere around 40, 50 million next quarter, not really do too much for the stock. And then into Q2, into March 2022, then see the real potential and Redican numbers consolidated on there. But we'll continue to just take it day by day, as long as you're prepared, right? If just prepare yourself now financially. If you need to load money into wherever you need to do to prepare, maybe set some buy limit orders. Personally, I had an order set at $1.50 Canadian, $1.50 USD. I hit that order today. I'll buy another tranche at 125, and then I'll buy another one at $1, right? But again, I've had this same strategy now since January and February. I was going to start selling into strength, and then I was going to look at selling some of my other profits in tech stocks or crypto, and then move a little bit at that time over to the beaten down MJ sector. And that's just what I've been doing. I've been rotating. I saved some cash as well. So if you're asking if it's going to go under $1, generally that means that you might have invested a little bit too much, or maybe you entered a little too early, right? So these are all things that you can learn from, and don't worry about it. I mean, I know we all been there, and you don't want to see it go under $1, and you just want to see the bleeding stop. But it really is just a learning experience, and you can kind of just look at it and move on, right? Learn from it, move on, and if it goes under $1, what can you do to capitalize on that, right? Is there something that you can do to raise a little bit more money to average down, or maybe I need to rethink my dollar cost averaging plan, or maybe I need to use a dollar cost averaging plan. There's so many things, right? But personally, I don't think it's going to go much under $1 US. I'd be surprised if it even dipped below there, to be honest. We're already down over 85%. Tilray's down over 85%, I think, and it seems to be forming a nice base there at $10. So again, my only real concern, I'm just going to be watching the S&P 500. If we see any major dips there, that's probably going to be what tanks MJ if we drop any significant amount from here. And then, like I said, hopefully see that bull flag confirm on SPY, and we see some positive catalysts going into the end of the year for MJ. Play a little bit of a laggard, and then what I'm going to be doing is looking to trim again, and then I'll be looking to potentially short the S&P 500 and take some of my crypto profits into the end of the year and rotate them into the MJ space. Yes, the MJ space may continue to drop, but again, if you're investing profits, money that wasn't even yours in the first place, and you had that mentality that you're going to dollar cost average, maybe you set some targets. Even if you have $1,000 you want to invest, maybe you have no money and you want to invest, and you want to, over the next couple of weeks, you want to make it a goal of yours to invest, to come up with $500. Maybe don't put all the 500 in at once. Maybe set it at $100 or $200 at this level, $200 at this level, and $100 at this level in case we get there, right? So all great questions, and I appreciate the quality of the comments. One thing I wanted to say that I'm grateful for, because a lot of channels, you go on there and it's trolls galore, and people having to delete comments all the time and get moderators in there to keep up with it all. Who knows, maybe I'll have to deal with it someday. Maybe I should knock on wood or something. But just want to say thank you very much for being sophisticated and not letting emotions or anger just let you fly off the handle. And I appreciate all the constructive comments and criticisms. Like I said, no company's perfect. We just need to find companies that are going to be great companies. They might not be great companies today, but that's what makes investments is you find the companies that are going to be great before they end up, before the masses are aware of it, right? When do you think the MJ sector turn? I think it'll turn sometime in the first half of 2022. I think that Bitcoin's probably going to top out here, and the rest of the crypto. I think Bitcoin's probably going to top out sometime in December, and then we'll see alts dip a little bit maybe, and then we'll see alts outperform, and then money rotate from Bitcoin and some of the meme coins into some of the beaten down ones, and then we'll see crypto hit that final blow off top, whenever that is. It could be January, could be December, it might even be March. But we'll just have to keep monitoring keep checking in, subscribe. I'll let you know on my future videos. But I'll be, just checking the charts day after day after day, and, looking for any clues that we can potentially see. And generally, like I said, Bitcoin has been leading the market because Tesla had more money invested in, or made more money off Bitcoin than it did selling cars. So therefore, Bitcoin has been correlated to Tesla, because when when Bitcoin goes up, Tesla makes money because they have Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And then SPY goes up because SPY is very heavily weighted with Tesla, right? So Bitcoin's been leading this market really since March of 2020. And if we see that sign that crypto's starting to top, that might mean that the stock market could be topping soon too. So we need to be prepared if crypto tops out and the stock market tops out at relatively the same time, and we see a pretty big dip, that could result in another big dip in MJ, and then maybe MJ gets bought up quicker, and then we see MJ outperform. That's what I would see happening. So again, expecting that some point over the next couple of months, and then into the beginning, maybe Q1, Q2, we start to see MJ stocks start to rebound. But again, I'd like to see MJ stocks, we're just not set up well, right? So we can see MJ stocks start to gain a little bit of momentum here in the end of the year, which it normally does around this time of year. We can start to see some names start to claw back some of those losses. We can start to retrace a little bit and retrace some of those losses. Then we can be better prepared if the broader market were to see any real downside, right? So that's what I want to see. Is I want to see MJ just stopped the bleeding, you know, bounced 10, 20%. And then if the stock market ends up falling 10 or 20% and has a pretty big downward slope, you know, then we can brace the fall a little bit better with MJ, because it's not looking too hot right now. BMMJ, I'll take a quick look at it here. BMMJ. Yeah, so we're down, just following the rest of the market. And we're pretty bullish, like in comparison to most of the names. Like if you look at where we were, just taking a look here, back in February, we hit $1. So at current levels, we're only down 61%. So some of the Canadian names are down like 85%. So BAM from February is actually holding pretty good. But at the moment, you know, we need weekly uptrends to confirm. Still haven't confirmed a weekly uptrend. And there's not a whole lot here. I'll just check BAM's ticker as well. So we are looking for a monthly high or low on body and mind. And we're holding monthly support trend line. I just realized I wasn't sharing my screen, but we are holding the monthly support trend line. We're just looking for monthly high or lows. So we need to see weekly uptrends confirm. Not really much to see here. Just basically tracking the rest of the MJ market. But no real updates on BAM. I'm bullish on BAM. I don't have any updates from the company or anything like that fundamentally that I can share with you. But in terms of the chart, no major red flags, just trying to base out and find its monthly high or low. We need to confirm weekly uptrends across the whole sector. And really going to be watching HMMJ and MSOS. So all these individual names, I think pretty much everybody's in the same boat. Most US MJ is down 60%, and most Canadian MJ is down like 80 or between 70 and almost 90%, because I think Canadian stocks, they ran too fast. So like Tilray went from like in November or like October to $4 to $67, right? So it ran really hard in a short period of time. That's why we saw it tank more, and in a shorter period of time, why it dropped so much in comparison. Plus, there's more money involved on those companies that are listed on major exchanges, right? So I do think that there was a little bit more manipulation there. So, like I said, just following the rest of the market, but BMMJ is looking good. No major red flags. I could see a drop to about 44 cents, maybe 42 cents on BAM. So on the Canadian side. So watch that as a potential bottom. If the market dips, can MJ still rally? It can, yeah. There's nothing saying it can't. And if we had any kind of US legalization news, you know, when people are selling stocks, they're likely gonna, it all depends, right? What's gonna kind of cause the market? Is the market gonna crash because the US dollar falls, or is it gonna crash because some company gets hacked or some major company goes bankrupt? That's what I could see, tanking the market. I'm basically looking for one of three things. Either the US dollar is gonna completely collapse, or the US financial system is just gonna completely collapse, or we're gonna see a major company go bankrupt that no one else ever thought would happen, or maybe even a country go bankrupt and see hyperinflation again, or what have you. Or we might see a major company or even a major government get hacked. And that might be the catalyst for the next, and that would reset the financial system and move us over to crypto as well. As we know, the US Federal Reserve is piloting a US digital dollar after saying they had no plans to do so for months. So it's possible MJ can run. It doesn't have to, it doesn't have to go down with SPY. It's just the odds are it's probably going to drop, right? If SPY drops 10 or 20%, MJ could drop 30 or 40%. But again, some of these names that are already down 80%, it's highly unlikely that it would. But again, it all depends on what sort of narrative and catalysts are all going on at the time. So we're going to start wrapping things up. See, we have a couple more questions here. Should we still hold Canara? Yeah, like on the US chart, we have key support there. at 10 cents, and the US chart was holding that. So again, selling anything MJ related right now, I don't really think is the right mindset. I think we should be focusing on buying more, or if you're thinking of selling, personally, I wouldn't be selling Canara right now at those levels. But if you are thinking if you should sell, then like I said, maybe Claudio, maybe what you can do is just think of why you want to sell, right? And then what you can do maybe next time to better position yourself, or what might have went wrong, or maybe, you know, did you allocate a little bit too much capital, or did you not scale in, or what have you, right? So hopefully that helps. But I personally think there's a lot of good support here at 10 cents on the OTC ticker, and like I said, I think most of MJ right now is is not really in a position where you want to be selling it, because it could erupt at any time. Do you think Hexo still has the potential to come up? Why it dipped so bad today? Yeah, so it looks like you're joining us a little bit late, Sumi. So we're about two hours into the stream. So I encourage you to go back and re-listen to it. But the reason why it dipped is because they did have history. They did have the best revenue in their history for the quarter, but they had a $67 million loss. They came in at a negative 0.48 on the EPS. The estimate was negative 0.08. So a huge miss there, and also some concerns with the convertible debt that's coming due. But again, I don't think that's a huge issue, and I think it was just more or less manipulation and a way for, because everybody knows that Hexo is a sound company. They know that they have phenomenal products, they have great brands. The only thing that the mainstream media and the analysts are clinging on to is their financials. And we know that BNN Bloomberg did an article saying that Tilray and Hexo are likely going to become the first profitable LPs at some point in 2022. So again, if financial concerns is the main concern for all these analysts, why does BNN Bloomberg think that Hexo is going to be profitable at some point in the next year? So I think it's, again, that's why I bring up Tesla. Not that it's comparing apples to apples, they're apples to oranges. I'm not saying Hexo is going to be the next Tesla. I'm saying the narrative was the same. Tesla, everybody loved Tesla, before it went on its crazy run there in January. Everybody loved Tesla, but all the analysts were saying, don't buy it. They're not making any money. They're going to go bankrupt. They're not making nearly enough cars, right? Like Toyota makes more cars in a month than they make in 2 years. There was all that kind of FUD and fear that they were mongering, right? And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Tesla turns a profit and then shoots up 3,000 or 4,000% and doesn't look back, and now over $1 trillion valuation. So I think the similar story is happening here. I think Hexo is, carbon neutral. They've got that checkbox. They've got, great team. They've got great management. They've now got a new CEO. They're checking off all those check boxes, and they're ready for that next stage of growth. And I think EBITDA positive is possible in Q1, Q2. And then I think we could see EPS positive in Q3 or Q4. So at some point this time next year, EPS positive. But again, similar story, right? Hexo not making any money. They're probably going to go bankrupt. And then BNN just said that they think they're going to turn a profit next year. So what happens if they turn a profit into next year? All the analysts are going to start flipping bullish, right? And say, oh, we were wrong. And then it's not going to look back, and it's probably going to see some crazy gains, right? So, and like I said, not too many people are talking about Hexo right now. Even the mainstream media isn't talking about them. So I don't think that we're going to have to deal with any kind of bankruptcy or anything like that. So I think people just need to chill out, kind of take a step back and just realize that, think of all the people who missed out on Tesla because of that financial concern, right? So again, of course, there's no guarantees, but maybe a way you can fight that temptation to sell or to get emotional. Maybe you allocated a little bit too much money, or maybe you could save a little bit of cash on the side in case it dips, and then that way you're better prepared financially and mentally if you do see a big drop, right? So hopefully that helps. Do you think Hexo still has the potential to come up? Oh, absolutely. I think that, like I said, I think Hexo has all the check boxes for an amazing company, carbon neutral. They've been leading by example. They've always been leading by example, really, and they've just been the underdog. And now they're number one in market share. They've raised the least amount of money in terms of shareholder capital raised, and like I said, they have number one market share. And look at how many people are on this live stream. That should be a very big clue, right? We're now going over 2 hours. And I haven't really seen that many people drop off over the last, so I mean, kudos to you. Most people aren't even, to all you 32 people that are still on here at this after 2 hours, kudos to you, because most people aren't even focused on MJ right now. But it's likely going to be this group of people here on this stream today that are going to be looking back in 6 months or a year from now, or maybe even 2 years from now, and saying, oh my God, I can't believe people weren't interested when, and that's just the way markets work, right? So thank you. Great discussion. We appreciate your time. You're welcome, S. All right. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you. And if you could just support me one last time, smash the like, help this video get out to as many people as possible. Hopefully it didn't get banned or anything like that for many of the words that I've been using. The algorithm doesn't always like the MJ related vocabulary. So like I said, if you can share this with anybody that might find value, hit the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And appreciate all of you joining us on the Pursuit of Wealth for another live stream. And we'll catch you guys in a little bit, maybe some point next week. So currently traveling, still in Edmonton, and potentially going to be looking at another property here. Might be looking at a condo. That's my next big thing I'm looking to get into, is the real estate market in Alberta. I think Edmonton specifically is a great opportunity, especially in the condo market. But again, not financial advice. Thank you, Claudio. You're great as well, man. I appreciate it. Have a great night.